From those questions that have puzzled you for the better part of 4 decades, to what must have gone down in order to bring some of the universe's most beloved moments into being. Each and every one of these never-filmed Star Wars beats definitely possesses the ability to make you squirm in your seats. Gareth here from What Culture Star Wars, and here are 10 awkward Star Wars moments that must have happened off-screen. Number 10. Mando reveals his interactions with Luke Skywalker to Boba Fett. Amidst the hype and excitement that surrounded Luke Skywalker's return to the live-action TV scene in this year's Book of Boba Fett, many a Star Wars fan largely overlooked one little detail that may have actually opened the door for a rather delicate conversation between two of Disney Plus's most valuable entities at one point or another. With the Jedi Master saving the day towards the end of The Mandalorian's second season, Din Djarin entrusts this mystical Force user with the care and training of his little pal Grogu. But should the Beskar-sporting bounty hunter ever reveal this information to his fellow sharpshooting badass Boba Fett, you can bet that Daimyo would be somewhat conflicted over his interactions with the Skywalker. After all, Luke was very much involved in the scenario that resulted in Fett being sent plummeting into the Sarlacc pit in Return of the Jedi. So even though Fett's experiences post-pit palaver have understandably softened the merciless killer, you can bet that the knowledge of Luke very much being connected to his Mandalorian ally would have made, or will make, for a potentially combustible conversation. Number 9. Grogu tells his master to do one. One of the most notable events to go down in that aforementioned apparent Boba Fett-centric spin-off came in the form of another moment involving Luke Skywalker and one of his first apprentices. When faced with the seismic choice of decking himself out in the Beskar armor gifted to him by Din Djarin, or taking up the lightsaber formerly owned by legendary Jedi Master Yoda, Grogu eventually shows up on Tatooine to aid his bestie in his quest to help Boba Fett defend Mos Espa. But what isn't showcased in the Book of Boba Fett's runtime was the actual interaction that went down when Grogu effectively told Skywalker where to go. With the closing shot of Grogu with his mouth slightly open, perhaps teasing the diminutive Force user finally uttering his first words, it's unclear whether the little green icon uttered the phrase "shiny vest I would like," or just simply waddled on out of the temple in his new threads. The fact Grogu rocks up in Luke's X-Wing later suggests a more amicable breakup of sorts. But there's still no questioning the fact that this decision must have birthed at least a momentary beat of awkwardness between the two. Number 8. The fate of Luke Skywalker's hand. And sticking with Master Luke, and to a query many a Star Wars fanatic has posed since way back in 1980, as Skywalker went to war with his dark father in Cloud City. During said duel, the Jedi in training ultimately loses a hand, resulting in both his mitt and lightsaber falling down a shaft and disappearing for a spell. Of course, the iconic lightsaber formerly owned by Anakin Skywalker would rear its head once again in The Force Awakens. But what of the hand that was gripping hold of the Jedi weapon? Well, it turns out that the paw actually wound up on a familiar planet. Though not going down on screen, the Star Wars Darth Vader comic revealed that what appeared to be his son's hand somehow ended up on Exegol with the Emperor, with some even suggesting it was used to help create the clones of Snoke seen in various tanks in the lair. Whatever way you slice it though, the Emperor appears to have been conducting some pretty unsettling tests on this iconic chopped hand. Number 7. Rey embraces her new Skywalker life. Say what you want about the way J.J. Abrams opted to sign off a saga 4 decades in the making, but you'd be lying if you said you weren't even a little bit moved by the closing visual of Rey staring off into the distance as Tatooine's 2 sons descended. However, in the moments that most definitely followed on from this burial of Luke and Leia's lightsabers, on a planet neither Jedi was particularly fond of, it's hard to imagine a reality where Rey's decision to go with a well-known new moniker didn't strike up a few rather jarring and awkward conversations later down the road. After all, on top of discovering that she not only wasn't actually a nobody all along, but the bloody granddaughter of the Dark Lord of the Sith himself, Rey will now most likely find herself explaining to pals, strangers, and enemies alike why her new last name acts as a tribute to her former mentors/parental figures, and that she ultimately decided to bin off her Palpatine heritage until she's blue in the face. She made a choice, she's gotta stick to it. Number 6. Luke lied to Leia about Ben Solo's fall. Acting as the catalyst that would lead to Luke Skywalker eventually exiling himself on Acto, the Jedi Master's glimmer of weakness as he pondered killing off his own nephew upon seeing the potential darkness in Ben Solo would pave the way for the falling of his Jedi Temple and Solo into the dark side of the Force. Yet what isn't ever made explicitly clear on screen is how, or even if, Luke broke the true nature of the news to Leia upon Ben's decision to kiss goodbye to his old moniker and embrace the title of Kylo Ren. In fact, if the Resistance Reborn canon novel is anything to go by, it seems as though Luke withheld this controversial information from his sister altogether, with the general admitting, "I do too," when Rey reveals she wants to understand what made Ben turn to the dark side. Going further, Rey would also add, "So you don't know?" a question Leia would noticeably dodge in the pair's exchange. If Luke did choose to disguise the truth when revealing his nephew's fall to his sister, you can bet that must have been one hell of a morally questionable off-screen conversation to be a part of. Number 5, Boba Fett tries on his daddy's outfit for the first time. While it has since been made canon that Boba Fett likely hasn't actually been wearing the same helmet that once contained his father's decapitated head, with the bitter youngster using it to hide a bomb in an attempt to take out Mace Windu in the Clone Wars, that still doesn't change the fact that the rest of the Beskar gear being taken up by the son of Jango must have produced its fair share of uncomfortable moments at one point or another. Don't forget, the rest of that unmistakable Mandalorian armor still housed the other half of Jango's separated body as it lay limp on Geonosis, something Boba himself witnessed as the Clone Wars got underway. So that first moment the soon-to-be iconic bounty hunter tried on the Beskar bodysuits must have been a bit of a conflicting and emotional off-screen experience, it must be said. Boba would obviously go out of his way to repaint the armor in his own distinct choice of colorings later down the road, but ultimately restored the suits in general in memory of his late father. Number 4, Lando Calrissian leaves the Resistance hanging. As our humble Resistance lay on the brink of complete annihilation in the closing stages of The Last Jedi, General Leia and her last remaining troops send out a desperate distress call. Of course, not a single soul would show up, and in this moment many were right to wonder where the supposed friends of Leia and her cause were in arguably their darkest hour. While it has since been papered over as simply a case of the First Order jamming the signal sent out to the point that very few had even heard it, according to the Rise of Skywalker's official novelization, that still doesn't feel like a strong enough excuse for Lando Calrissian in particular to fall back on. As seen in the aforementioned Episode 9, the one-time rebel general clearly didn't fancy being on the front line anymore. So even if he had heard the call, it seems much more likely that there was a moment where he simply turned a blind eye to the Resistance's plight. At least he saw a little more sense by the time Rise of Skywalker came to its dramatic conclusion, finally leading the long-awaited backup into battle on the planet Exegol. Number 3, Mace Windu's body has to land somewhere. While it's not exactly uncommon for a seemingly dead and buried character to somehow find a way to return to the Star Wars fold, one person who does seem to be about as officially dispatched as possible in this galaxy far, far away comes in the form of the only purple lightsaber wielder ever committed to the screen. Now, Samuel L. Jackson himself may have confessed that he and George Lucas don't necessarily think the all-powerful Jedi Master was completely dispatched by Darth Sidious back in Revenge of the Sith, but until proven otherwise, his jaw-dropping electrocuting at the hands of the Dark Lord of the Sith and subsequent firing out of a window seem about as definite an end as they come. Yet with so much going on in that last entry of the prequels, it did go largely overlooked that what goes up most definitely has to come down. So at one point, Windu's body must have very much splattered onto the Coruscant pavement, likely scarring any poor soul who witnessed the legendary Jedi leader turn into Force-sensitive scrambled eggs upon impact. Yep, there's an image. Number 2, Rey's father explains his origins to her mother. After initially eliciting groans aplenty on the back of it being revealed that Rey was actually a bloody Palpatine all along, the backstory behind how Darth Sidious became a granddaddy in the first place was largely left off screen. For those wondering whether it involved the Dark Lord of the Sith getting to do it would eventually be confirmed that Rey's father was actually a failed clone created when trying to make a new body for the Emperor. But instead of simply discarding this useless, powerless failure, Palpatine would allow it to live as he surmised that the Palpatine blood rushing through its veins might someday become useful. Well, he wasn't wrong. But that still doesn't gloss over the fact that Rey's cloned Pops probably endured a pretty excruciating conversation at one point with Rey's mother when the time came to explain who and what he actually was. Nevertheless, his partner clearly didn't give a damn, and the two ran away to Jakku together to raise their family in secret, before being forced to leave Rey behind to keep her safe from Sidious's reach for a bit. Number 1, Luke, Leia, and Han discuss that kiss. What at first appeared to me nothing more than a tactic to make Han Solo a little jealous on the snowy planet of Hoth quickly became a rather unsettling occurrence once a certain revelation was made known. If the comment of Leia somehow always knowing she was related to Luke wasn't bad enough, on the back of Luke revealing himself to be her brother in Return of the Jedi, the fact Han witnessed the two siblings, one of them being his eventual lover, playing tonsil tennis likely opened the door for a bit of an awkward exchange following on from the Ewok victory celebration. Though the penny does admittedly appear to drop for Solo ever so slightly upon hearing the news of their Skywalker connection, the true fallout of this game-changing news is never really built upon on screen. But Mark Hamill himself has actually also gone on record to admit on Twitter that this whole ordeal, and reveal that Luke had actually locked lips with his own flesh and blood, was traumatic and a serious life-altering experience for the Jedi. Simply put, our heroes clearly went through more than a few uncomfortable moments after seemingly seeing off the Empire once and for all. And that's our list of any other awkward Star Wars moments that must have happened off screen. Let us know all about them in the comment section right down below, and do not forget to like, share, and click on that subscribe button while you're here. Also, be sure to head over to whatculture.com and find some more awesome articles just like the one this video you're watching right now is based on. Why not? I wrote it. I've been Gareth from What Culture Star Wars. May the Force be with you. Thank you for clicking on this video today, and I'm sure I'll see you very, very soon. Bye bye.